Hello from Lisbon, Portugal. I am here with Amber, who is a public speaker, a TEDx speaker now, a success coach, and a world traveler. I've known Amber for a long time, probably over 5 or 6 years, right, Amber?
Yeah,
So it's good to have you here. Tell us, how do you like Lisbon, Portugal so far?
I've loved Lisbon. The time's really gone by very quickly. I've gotten to travel to many different cities within Europe this last month, and it's been a beautiful space. I enjoy it.
Thank you. Well, thank you for doing this interview with me. And the purpose is to educate people on travel, on mindset, on success. You're a success coach. What is a success coach?
I help people to identify first what success looks like for them. I think it looks different for so many of us. And even when I'll speak for myself, success meant something different 3 years ago. And now in the space that I am, it looks different now, and I need coaches to get to my next level. So it's about identifying what that looks like first, and then really breaking down the tangible goals to get there. Because so many of us get stuck in the bigger vision that working on what to accomplish in the now seems so far away when it's really not. If you just think about that compound effect and what you're doing on the daily can really help to get you there.
Absolutely. So success is different for everyone. I feel like a lot of people, when they think about success, they think about being rich and being very successful financially wise. But that's not always the case. Everyone has different definitions of success. And you work with a lot of different people. What have you seen are some of the different definitions or things that they go after when it comes to success for the people that you work with? Like, what are some commonalities that you see? Like, this is what I want success to be for me.
Most people I feel have one big vision and goal. Like in the next 5 years, I'll be successful if, I'll be successful when. And then I look at the people that I am investing in to coach me, and I've realized that it's more of a desired end state. It's more of a, how can I have this maintained level of happiness and well-being? Kind of like the cliche of enjoying the journey to get there. And so, like, my idea of success, for instance, has really changed. It's not to have, an 8-figure business or to own certain things that are more exterior, but a lot of me feeling successful does come in the day-to-day, the smaller moments in my business, exploring and celebrating like the wins that my team has when I'm in Portugal for a month.
Yeah.
And they signed a big contract without me being there. I feel so successful today, right? With like things like that. So it's changed again, but most of the time people do, even when they accomplish that next goal, success is the next one.
Yeah. I love that. So success changes, and thank you for explaining your definition of success. Something that I've seen as a coach and just in my life, I used to be a personal trainer. And to a lot of people that hired me for personal training in the past, success, the two most common things that I saw for people wanting to get in better shape was people want to get in better shape for weddings and people want to get in better shape for the summer. And what I saw was there was just tons of motivation for that. And then they hired me, they hired other personal trainers. They had the motivation, and then the summer came and the summer went. And the wedding came and the wedding went. And what happened was there was no longer that goal because they hit it. And after that, they lost their motivation because that was their why. And so they reached that summit to success, but then they ended up yo-yoing sometimes. And what that means is for a lot of people that do want to get in better shape but have had so many ups and downs in life, trying out different workout programs, trying out different diets, is they yo-yo, they go up and down, up and down. It's because they haven't made it a lifestyle yet. And I think that to me now is success, is making something a lifestyle, whether it's a relationship, whether it's health, whether it's your career, because there's always going to be things to hit. But if we wait to feel happy right until we hit it, then we're missing out on the present moment so much. And you were like, yeah, being happy today, like what can cause happiness today? What can cause success today? Can you tell us a little bit about that? And also, what do you think about the words perfectionism versus excellence? What does that mean to you?
Wow. Not sure if I've been asked that before, but I used to think I was a perfectionist. So technically I'm a recovering, person that has dealt with perfectionism before. And I feel like most of the time when I hear oh, I'm a perfectionist, if someone labels themselves as that, this might sound harsh, but I really do feel like it's an excuse to not get that thing done. There's a kind of art and freedom in doing things imperfectly and knowing that as much as I feel I could be perfect in this moment, it still might not be perfect enough for the vision I have of what perfect is. And what's interesting about that in the psyche is that a lot of it is really, is it good enough for you, or are you just afraid that it's not good enough for the person that's going to see the thing that you're creating in the world? And you're afraid if it's perfect enough for them. And so perfectionism to me is just a complete illusion. My goal lately is just to do things imperfectly, because then at least they get done, right? Have you ever found, let's just talk for instance, because we're all coaches and stuff in this home here in Portugal. It's like I'll release the masterclass when I have enough testimonials. Let me get the extra certification. I got to wait till I learn all the things. And it's like, really, you're enough now.
Yeah.
Because all you have to do, especially as a coach, is be 1 to 2 steps ahead of the person right behind you.
Yes.
And the person that's way up there that maybe you're studying and you're looking to, why are you comparing yourself to that? You're not on that level yet because your journey is different.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I've really worked to release perfectionism, but that doesn't mean I'm not hard on myself. I'm still very hard on what the things I put out into this world is and looks like and feels like for me. It still has to meet my standard of excellence. And the excellence part, tying that in, is, I was telling Lexi the other day, I was like, all I have is like 40% today. All this travel takes a toll on you, and working and traveling. And I said, well, I gave my 40%, so technically I gave 100. Truly. It's all I could give today, and I gave my best. So I had different coaching clients, and sometimes you got to be okay with 40% being your 100.
Sometimes you got to be good with 40% being your 100. I love that. That's what you said, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm like, how did you remember that? Yes, exactly what I just said.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've definitely seen, you and I have been to a lot of different seminars. We've invested in coaches ourselves. We've invested in our personal growth and development.
So much.
Especially you. This is one of the reasons I wanted you to do this interview, is because I feel like you have so much to offer, especially when it comes to that. You are incredible at setting certain goals and then going after them and just pursuing it and being persistent. And you've done things that I also want to get to. For example, TEDx, you just got announced to be a TEDx speaker in San Antonio. You are an author. You have your own book. You had your own podcast. And you've even gotten paid for public speaking, right? So let's talk to the people that are a little bit below that, where they have aspirations, they have dreams to go after a lifestyle where they are booking public speaking, they have a book, they are booking TEDx, right? So they're achieving big goals. Can we talk about your mindset from when you first started and maybe when you had a lot of imposter syndrome to where you are now? You're actually coaching people how to be public speakers, how to book gigs, how to create more success in their life. Can you talk about the differences in mindset for like when you first got started and maybe some limiting beliefs or some fears that you had to tackle and overcome to get to where you are now?
Most definitely. And to be very clear and transparent, the imposter syndrome doesn't ever really go away. I had a beautiful breakfast with my girlfriends this morning, and we were talking about new levels, new devils, right? And just when you think you've had it figured out, you're reaching that next step and stepping into that next version of yourself, and all of a sudden, it's brand freaking you again.
Yeah.
You're like, cool. So I started a business. I'm making money in the business. I have a team. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm traveling the world. And then you don't really realize, it doesn't click until you're in it, that, well, this is new to me too. And so I actually find a lot of similarities in who I used to be with how I function now, in a good way. A lot of it's like, well, I don't know how I'm going to do XYZ. How am I going to write a book? I sat down and I gave myself permission to have a really cruddy first draft. And then I was able to put the chapters together. Then I was able to hire someone to help me revise it. Then I looked into how to self-publish it. And then it just came about. And let me tell you, the book that I have out now, which I'm really proud to say was even in Target stores and won some awards and things, it has like 3 typos that I never got rid of. And those imperfections are still in the freaking book. And I'm like, you know what? But I did it.
You did it. What's the name of the book?
It's called Thriving into 30, a 30 Things Guide for the Growth Mindset Girl. But let me tell you, even though it says for the Growth Mindset Girl, I have a review on there from a 70-year-old man that was like, I was going to buy this for my granddaughter, and I read it, and this book helped me. So if you're a man out there, you could still get the book. And if you're a man out there, you probably have a lot of really amazing women in your life that I think this could be useful for. But again, I just wrote the first page, right?
Yeah. I love the title, Thriving in Your 30s. And there is the shift that has happened now where people are having kids later on compared to decades ago, where it was a lot more normal throughout the world to have kids when you're in your teens or your 20s. Now, people are having it later on, late 20s, early 30s, late 30s. Let's talk about that a little bit, about people and what it means to thrive for different people, because I feel like there is quite a bit of challenges now in this world, 2024. I feel like it's a golden era. There's so many opportunities. We're in Lisbon, Portugal, but your home base is Texas. My home base is Texas. However, we're in a different country filming this and working from here. How is it possible for someone to thrive in their 30s, and what does thriving mean?
Thriving in your 30s. I can only speak to what it means to me. Thriving in my 30s, granted right now I'm 36. I'm working on the second book because my goal to myself is every 5 years after I live that year, there's going to be a 35, a 40, a 45, a 50. I will write these books forever because It's kind of like a personal thing for me. Yeah. I want to look back and see how I've grown, but then I've also realized when I was in my 20s, turning 30, the only books I could find were very blasé. They were very, eat the cake, travel the world, kiss the guy. And I'm like, where's that book for people who really want to go into the depths of themselves? What about the people who are going through a complete transition in their identity, who maybe want better for themselves, who want this sense of belonging and affirmation that their dreams do matter? And so that's what I hope to get out of writing it, is to keep discovering that within myself, but then also to help other people do that. But going back to thriving, to me, it's just pushing myself no matter how difficult things get. Because being really transparent, the first 2 days I was here, I was out of sorts. I I felt very emotional. I was like, what did I do? How's my team going to get on without me back home? Like, granted, one of my businesses are online, but I still have like a physical team for my construction/contracting company. And I've not been away that long before. But then I realized, well, I'm usually not in person anyway. So this is just a figment of my imagination. So to me, thriving even in this month and this moment has been, it's so cliche, but getting out of the comfort zone, trying something different because my soul was calling to travel. Not just travel, because I've traveled mostly solo my whole life. Being with friends has been a different experience.
Yeah.
I've had 6 different friends here. I did 3 different countries this month.
Wow.
And all just knowing that, okay, I'm going to balance how to, here are the moments I'm going to be present. And now I got to say no to going out for a day because I'm stepping into work and I'm coaching and I'm preparing to, I'm still writing my TED Talk. That is in 2.5 weeks and finalizing that.
Speaking of TED Talks, how were you able to land a TED Talk? What if someone right now watching has a dream to land a TED Talk, to speak on the TEDx stage? What would you say to them?
Love this question. TED Talk, so really quick, TED Talk has been on my vision board for 4 years. And truth be told, I've only applied to 3. And I got the 3rd one. And it helped that I produced a TEDx talk before. I was on the production end, so I got to see how the curators worked with the speakers and figure out what they're looking for. And then I spoke on stages, and I've had a lot of clarity of my message. So get clear on your message.
Okay.
2, it's going to feel intimidating. Maybe not for you. For me, it was very intimidating. It was about an 8-hour process to submit. You've got to answer questions. You've got to give them your idea of a talk within 2 minutes recorded on a video. You have to attach articles that prove the concept in which you're talking about that have to abide by the TEDx rules and guidelines. So it did take time, but such good time invested. So to repeat back in very small little pieces here, clarity on your message, have articles that back up what you're wanting to talk about. And 3rd, I would say practice speaking to people.
Yeah.
Whether it's a phone and you're on an Instagram Live, right? Whether it's a Toastmasters, which I know you're very familiar with. I am too. That's how Lexi and I really connected, was through Toastmasters. Getting rid of those filler words and being on a stage, realizing that when you're on that stage, it's not about you. I feel like that's what releases the butterflies for me. I'm like, okay, how can I serve these people today? Versus, what if I mess up? What if I stumble on the stage? All of those things are about I. So if you get on stage and you're genuinely just like, okay, I know this message is going to impact people. It resonates with me on a deeper level than statistics and the storyline has to be perfect. Like, once you release all that expectation and you just go out there knowing that you're here for a reason, a good reason, then it's not so intimidating anymore.
Wow. So number 1, get clear on your message. Number 2, do your research, look at articles. And then number 3, speak. Speak to people, go to Toastmasters, find events where you can speak for networking on Meetup. That's a good app. Or just do a live, Instagram live, Facebook live, YouTube live, whatever it is, just practice speaking. And then you might land a TED Talk. Thank you. I love that. So Amber, another thing, I feel like I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs that are in the personal growth and development space that want to be an author. But that phase of wanting to be an author and then having the rough draft of the book or a couple of chapters, a lot of people don't even get there. So what kind of advice do you have for someone to get started on that dream of becoming an author, to get in that creative space, to take that step of sitting down and writing and being in that creative mindset where some of the ideas flow? Because I know some people even take that step to start writing, but then they hit writer's block. So what helped you create your rough draft and get in that space?
I feel, and of course this is coming from someone who's also a coach online in the online space, to me, it's kind of like being a coach. It gets harder if you're trying to push something out that you have no business talking about. If you've not been through it, if you've not properly healed through the thing. By the way, there's still 2 books in me that talk about my business divorce and my abusive relationship. I'm finally ready to write about those things because it was 5 years ago and I've completely healed from it and I'm a different person. But in the moment, I thought I wanted to write about it, and it still made me very emotional every time I put words on a paper. Yeah. And so that can also signify that maybe you're not ready to write that one book, and that's okay, right? So talk from a healed space, I feel, is really important. Talk from a space of already kind of being there and done that. Yeah. And I would also say that just giving yourself grace with a first draft is going to help a lot. I think for me, what's helped too is that I'm really in the habit of journaling every week. Maybe it's 4 times a week. Maybe it's all 7 days. Maybe it's just one day out of the week that I want to journal, but I'm a big journaler. And so expressing myself in the way of writings helped a lot. And 2, on the tactical side, give yourself a deadline. Because so much of the time we're like, oh, I'm just going to let this book flow out of me and it's just going to happen. And no, it won't. If you don't sit down and write in the pages. One thing that I did that was really big that put the fire to the pen was announcing to people when my book was coming out. I was like, look, I'm halfway there. I'm like, I don't know how I'm supposed to write these next. I had 30 chapters in my book. Thriving into 30. I don't know if I'm going to be doing 35 chapters. I'm working on that process right now for my next book, but I finally told people, I said, I have the cover done. Hey guys, this is when the book's releasing. People started messaging, oh my gosh, when is it out? Tell me about it. I'm like, holy crud, I gotta really make sure I get this done. And so to me, like setting a date always helps really put a pin on the deadline. Otherwise, if you're anything like me, you're gonna procrastinate. And we all know how quickly 6 months, a year, 2 years goes by and you're like, oh, I really wanted to write that book.
Wow.
Don't let that be you.
Okay, so set intentional space, and when you have that intentional space to write from a place where you've been there and done that and you feel healed to talk about whatever you're talking about, so it flows out. And then set a deadline. And for you, I love that you set the deadline after you've done half of the work or quite a bit of the work instead of right from the beginning, because sometimes people can overestimate things and then that can make it even more overwhelming. But I love how you did a lot of the work and then you still had more work to do, but you set a deadline and you announced it to the world. And that is so bold. That is bold to do that, because you have to pretty much show up when you do that, because you're telling other people, like, this is what's happening. And if it doesn't happen like that, I mean, it's still fine, but then people can judge, and it speaks about your brand in a certain way where some people might lose trust. Yep. Right? But you did that and you took that step. So congratulations. That's big. I feel like that's a big lesson.
Thanks. And I will say too, to anyone out there that wants to also write a book, again, I've self-published. I also just had a really great, I don't know if I've shared this with you, a really great interview that I had with the LA Times board. She's a board member for the LA Times, and she's been a journalist for a really long time. And her book's published through HarperCollins. And so my interview's in that book. Okay. And it got me thinking, yes, I want to self-publish my next book, but eventually the bigger goal is to be with an amazing publisher, But when that happens, I feel like I'll be ready for it because I know what it's like to meet my own deadlines. I know what it's like to go through the process of writing and kind of mapping out, okay, what's the journey I want to take people on through the chapters? What's the whole point of this book? I'm not just writing a book to share my story. I want to share it so that other people could see themselves in the stories I'm telling. And writing the second book, it's a lot easier because I found out what works for me.
Yeah.
And my positive triggers. What are your positive triggers?
Yeah.
Mine wasn't in a coffee shop. I got too distracted. I found out very quickly. I was at home and I listened to the same album every single day on repeat, and it got me in the zone. And I literally, every time I'd go into my office at the time, because I'm in a different place now, but back in my home, designated office, and I would just turn on the same album, and I knew that that was the mode I got into to write. Yeah.
What was the name of that album? And
You're gonna laugh at me. Oh, for the Taylor Swift fans out there. Okay, I'm a 36-year-old woman Swiftie. It's fantastic. I love her. I respect her. She's awesome. It was Folklore.
Okay.
Yeah. On repeat the entire time. It just came out like all those years ago when I started writing that book.
No, my wife is huge into Taylor Swift. She loves her, and I never listened to Taylor Swift before, and I listened to some of the songs when she played it out loud a few times and dances to it. I mean, and it's not my type of music, but then we had something on Valentine's Day where we did something that I wanted to do, and then we did something that she wanted to do, and we watched the Taylor Swift concert on Netflix. And wow, I can see why she is the #1 artist in the world right now.
And the first Forbes recognized, I believe, a billionaire to make and hit $1 billion only through music and performance of her music.
So now when I think about her, I don't think about her as just a musician. I think about her as a performer.
Yeah.
Because there was acting, there was community, there was leadership, there was a lot of different genres. I mean, it was just an experience. So shout out to all the Swifties out there.
Shout out to the Swifties.
All right, Amber, so now I'm feeling spontaneous, and I feel like I want to ask you some rapid fire questions.
Let's go.
So just answer quickly and to the best of your ability.
Let's go.
All right, Amber, 3 of your favorite influential speakers that have changed your life.
Brene Brown, Jen Gottlieb, and Jesse Itzler.
A book that has completely transformed your life.
That would be from Dr. Joe Dispenza, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And I got to do a 1-week advanced retreat with him in person in Cancun. Magical 8 hours of meditation. I've never done that in my life. Just blew my mind.
Wow. 3 top favorite countries that you've traveled to so far.
I'm a big France girl, so I'd have to say France. Gosh, this is hard. I love so many countries. Gosh, this is so difficult. I feel like that dun, 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 like the time's just ticking. Okay, so France, the UK, and Spain.
Okay. And what country in the UK?
London.
Oh, so the England, London. Okay. Okay. And favorite podcast?
Favorite podcast would be, gotta give okay, I have to give you 2. I'm sorry, I can't pick one. School of Greatness from Lewis Howes and On Purpose from Jay Shetty. I every single week without fail, I'm inspired.
I love it. Okay. And can you tell us one rule that you love to live by, or one quote that you want to share with people that has inspired you to live life the way you do now?
I feel like I have so many. Like, one of them is the tattoo I have on my wrist that says Meraki. And it's Greek, and it means whatever you create in this world, create it with the highest of love. And it's a reminder to me that, again, when I started the construction company, I was, truth be told, chasing money. And once I really got into myself and wanted to speak and coach and all these things, it's been completely different, and I'm doing it out of this space of like love and creativity, and I feel so free and wonderful, and it's just like a reminder to always create things out of that space. And the second one I'll share is Jim Carrey. I forget how he says it, but it's kind of close, about, I wish everyone was rich and famous so they can realize that wealth and fame really isn't what they want. And it just is a reminder for me that every level of success, every level of goal that I accomplish, that's not the answer to the problems I feel I'm facing right now. It's nothing to do with the exterior. It all has to do with how I learn and grow in the moment. How am I accepting this journey that I'm on with the people that I love most, with the community of people I've attached myself to, and just being cognizant of how I'm creating my reality. And it has nothing to do with hitting multiple 7 figures and 8 figures. Like, all of that's the byproduct. It's really about me expressing myself in a creative way. And so I love that he says that. So I feel like it's really true.
Okay. I love it. Meraki, was that it? Meraki?
Yeah.
Meraki. Create from the ultimate place of love. That's powerful. I love that. I can see why you got that as a tattoo.
Yes. And by the way, you and Lexi were there when I got it on my birthday in
Oh,
Austin,
yeah.
Texas, when you almost got frostbite on your ears.
I almost got frostbite on my ears in Texas.
so cold.
How was that possible? It was so cold. I remember that.
That was the moment.
Wow.
You,
okay.
Yeah, you guys took me to dinner for my birthday, and this is the one that I got.
Beautiful. Wow. I remember that.
Yeah.
All right. I got one more question for you, and then we're going to do something different right before we end it.
Perfect.
The question for you is, you and I come from a coaching space. We've hired coaches. We work with coaches, and now we're coaches. You're a success coach. I'm a transformational life coach. What qualities make a great coach a great coach?
Qualities that make a great coach a great coach. I'd say 1, teaching from a space of actually knowing and going through their own transformation, their own type of success. I think there are a lot of people that want to be coaches that, it was like me when I was like 19, 20, and I wanted to be a success coach or a life transformation person, but the reality was I hadn't gone through all of that myself. So I think, again, living in alignment is how I can put it. Living in alignment with what you want to do. Don't worry about copying every other coach. Whatever it is that you feel like you're an expert on now, no matter your age, you can help people now, but help them from a space of having experienced that so that you can really tap into the transformative power of what coaching is all about. And I forgot the other question. I'm sorry.
What makes a great coach a great coach? Yeah.
So, and then the second thing I would say is really listening. I feel like so much of the time we feel like, at least for me, I'm a more tactical, tangible coach.
Yeah.
I like to give you this process, and this is what you're getting at the end, and you're going to reach these goals once we do X, Y, Z. And that's why I love being friends with you all too, because you've tapped into more of the spiritual side than I'm working to tap into. And so listening more. A great coach has the ability to listen and not try to fix you or answer your questions, rather present the questions that will help you answer what you're looking for all by yourself.
I love that. Thank you for answering that. And now we're going to flip it to where you can ask me 3 questions. So whatever questions you have,
Oh my gosh.
just like whatever you want, just shoot
exciting.
shoot 3 questions my way.
Oh my gosh. I love this. Thank you for that. Okay. What did the most transformational moment in your life, what did you learn from the most transformational moment in your life that you carry with you today?
The most transformational moment in my life. It was when you're feeling really stuck and when you're feeling really low, the way that worked for me and the way that I've decided to guide others with and that I've applied myself is to make a decision to go all in into something. For example, when I was at the toughest place in my life where I was feeling depressed for the first time in my life, I was so low that I just woke up and I just didn't have any goals or motivations, and all my things that empowered me before had disappeared. So I lost my why. And I started feeling suicidal thoughts. I started thinking suicidal. And it was the first time in my life where I realized that was happening consciously, because before that was happening subconsciously. But now I caught it and I was like, oh my God, this is what I'm thinking about. So the next step might be even worse. So that's when I said, I have to change my life. I have to go all in into learning meditation, into learning spirituality, into working on my growth, into improving my health. And a lot of the other things that I might have done before, habits, going out with friends. For me, it was maybe drinking out socially a couple of times a week, watching certain things on TV or on social media. Certain habits, I couldn't do them no more, because if I continued, it would be downhill from that. So I had to make such a big shift in my life. And for that shift to happen, I had to decide to go all in. And I feel like that's where a lot of people continue to go in circles. And I've seen it even with myself, where it's like, I want to get somewhere and I want to achieve something, but just don't want it bad enough. And if you don't want it bad enough, there's a really good chance that you're going to be swayed by something else and not take that step to write that book or launch that podcast or apply for that TEDx talk. Mm-hmm. And so it's making an all-out 100% decision to go into something to change your life.
Thanks for sharing that. I didn't know that about you, and we've known each other so many years, and so I just think it's so beautiful how you're really open with sharing those moments. I think so many more men need to feel like some of us women do, where we have those girl groups and we can outpour and share all the things, and it's just good to have that awareness. My second question to you is, coming from a woman that's not been married. Again, your wife is my best friend. I was her maid of honor in y'all's wedding. Like, I love her so much. For you, how has marriage impacted you as a man in this industry specifically? And the personal development. How has marriage affected the career path that you're on?
It's affected it in many different ways. And there has been times where I wanted to stop my entrepreneurial process because it got really tough, or it wasn't having the momentum that I wanted it to have. Mm-hmm. And then just because with some of the skills that I've acquired, like sales or speaking, I wanted to take an easier road of just applying somewhere and saying stop. But my wife helped me, reminded me of what she sees in me, and she knows my potential, and she's encouraged me. It's like, I know, just having certain talks that motivated and inspired me to keep going. So that's definitely helped quite a bit. Also, going from being single to being engaged to then being married, it's so different. Each step is so different, because even when we were dating, I knew she was the one that I want to marry, and the commitment was there. But then when you propose and you give that ring and you are engaged, it's like a whole different responsibility.
Wow.
And your family's watching and her family's watching, and both of y'all's friends are watching, so there's more pressure. Yeah. And then when you get married, it's like, okay, I'm not just responsible for my life, I'm responsible for somebody else's life. And it's a whole different level of commitment. And so it's deep. It's very deep, but it also drives me to be a better man.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've thought about for a long time. I mean, even since I was a little boy, I was thinking, it's like, who am I going to get married to?
I love that.
So, of course, there's ups and downs, just like most relationships, and we work through them, and we look for how to improve. We look on how can we get better? How can we just keep growing? And every time that we're out and about, if we meet a couple that has been together more than 10 years, especially people that have been together or married 30, 40, 50 years, we ask them, like, what's the secret? What's the secret? And we get little golden nuggets and insights. I used to do that even before I met my wife. And a lot of the answers that I would get were communication and trust, that were the top two. But then one time I was on a flight to California for a Brendan Burchard public speaking event. And I sat by this older gentleman who was getting ready to retire. He was at the end of his career and he was married plus 50 years. And I asked him that question. It's like, what's the secret? And he said, the secret is to find someone that has similar values to you, very similar values to you, and someone that understands your goals and also wants the same things. So fights for those same goals. So if you are dating someone that has very similar values and the same dreams or very similar dreams, then you're going to be able to get through a lot of the thick and the thin, a lot of the tough spots. But if that's missing, that's where a lot of people like fall apart. So I made sure that that matched up with my wife, Lexi.
I love that. Thank you. And last and third question. Speaking of health, because you were a physical trainer, what three top tips would you give people to really excel with taking care of your mental and physical health, and do those tie in?
Yes, they mental and physical definitely tie in. I love that. Three top things to pretty much make wellness a lifestyle. Yeah. Number one is definitely understanding why you want to do it. And it should, from what I've seen, people that I've worked with and myself, it should be deeper than what you want to look like. It should be deeper than just losing a certain amount of weight, because if you think about it, that's selfish to a degree. And sometimes it's okay to be selfish, but if it's just for you, the fight that you have within might not be strong enough.
Or it's like the wedding thing that you mentioned of, okay, so you got to the wedding and you lost the 10 pounds and then now you're right back to what you used to, because that was the only goal. It wasn't anything past it.
That's it. So something that one tool that I work with my clients is 7 layers deep. And it's this process of asking a certain question over and over again, and you get to a deeper and a deeper and a deeper why until you get to your core why. And you end up seeing a big web of whys of how you getting in better shape can change the trajectory of your life and the trajectory of other people's lives.
I love that.
So that's number one, your why. Number two, I would say, is the more you understand about something, the more you might respect it and cherish it. So learning about the human body, how this body is a gift. This is a universe. It's so easy to get lost. And it's like, I'm Vassil, I'm Amber, you're Amber. And to just think about who we are. But in all of this, like studying anatomy and physiology helped me see, it's like, oh my God, there's so many intricate systems. We are this like divine design. There is a universe inside of us with little cells that are constantly working to keep you alive. Trillions of cells that are just working. And their job is just to work, to keep you alive. That's all they do. They don't have fun. They just work until their shelf life ends and they die and they're replaced by more cells. And this happens inside of you. But all those little cells are vibrating at a certain frequency, and they can be affected by our thoughts. And so taking the time to have certain little spiritual practices and thoughts, catching certain thoughts and having certain thoughts and rules can greatly impact your health, because it's proven that we can make ourselves sick through thoughts. Joe Dispenza talks about that.
Disease comes from the dis-ease.
Yes. And so if we can make ourselves sick with certain thoughts, we can make ourselves just thrive with certain thoughts in the physical reality, but in the spiritual and the mental reality. And there's this, I like, so the second thing is learn more about your human body, appreciate the human body, study facts about the human body, how it works, because then you're going to realize like what a gift it is to be a human being. I mean, to be a human being on earth is one of the greatest gifts you can ever have, because we have the ability to not just be in fight or flight all the time, depending on where you live, but a lot of us have this creative ability to create a life that we want to live. And I think that's really powerful. So that's the second tip. The third one I would say is habits. So a lot of the reasons why people fail to improve their health and their fitness is because their life is already overwhelming. There's so many things already that they have to do and balance and plan and take care of, that just thinking about exercising a certain way and learning about exercise and doing it the right way and eating the right way, it could be so overwhelming that even though you know you should do it, you just don't do it because it will stress you out even deeper, even thinking about how difficult that could be. And so the thing about that is finding out ways where exercise and eating healthy can be exciting instead of overwhelming. Because when it feels exciting, you're going to look forward to doing it. And there's so many little tips and tricks that I work with people to help them take the first steps to not overwhelm them, but to make it exciting. And then they start stacking momentum and building a little bit more excellence. And then it just builds and builds and builds, and results come, and then it becomes a lifestyle. So learning how to make it exciting instead of overwhelming can help get you to a place where you experience success in health and wellness.
I love that. I think it was super helpful for others and for me too. And I'm just appreciative of this time. And before we move on, I think you mentioned you had a last question and things. I'm curious, with even just being here this 1 month, like I would just love to acknowledge that you and Lexi, this is not just a vacation and a trip for you all. I leave back home to Texas tomorrow. You all have stepped into this beautiful digital nomading lifestyle. And if there's any tip for people who are coaching and they want to make it a lifestyle, like any one piece of advice you could give, because I acknowledge that I can't even imagine. It takes a lot to pick up your whole life. And now there's no technical home to go back to. Granted, we could talk about how home is where the heart is, and home is what we create in this 3D space and all of that. But really, all of it getting to you're creating your home as you move along in the world with your spouse, and it's new and it's different, and you've transitioned into this now. So any emotions that come up, any tips you want to give on that?
Yeah.
That would be my last thing.
Absolutely. Great question. So for people that are interested in the digital nomad lifestyle and just packing up their stuff and starting a complete new chapter, traveling the world, how can you do that? Well, what really helped us was starting to become aware that this actually is a reality that people live, and talking to some people like that, we got the opportunity and the blessings to talk to people that are already living this lifestyle. And how did it happen? Once again, investment in personal growth and development, going to certain public speaking events, meeting people that were digital nomads, that were speakers, that were coaches, that were living this, like, oh, wow. So you're living this way and you've done this for years? Tell me more. So just being curious about it, watch videos about it, listen to podcasts about it, read books, talk to people that are doing it. And then After that, what we did was we made a plan. We created a rough draft. It was like, okay, like we want to do this 1 year from now. So a year from now, how do we break that down for that to be a reality? What do we have to do 1 month from now, 6 months from now, a couple of months right before we leave, and a couple of weeks right before we leave? And then that helped us reduce the overwhelm because it'd be so overwhelming thinking about like, I'm just going to leave everything behind and I'm going to start a new chapter traveling the world. Well, if you can reduce that overwhelm or eliminate it by understanding when you should take action on certain things. And that really helped us out. And then being here and living this life. So you and I, one more time, we're in Portugal. And this is the start of my digital nomad adventure. And it's coming to an end for Portugal. It's been almost a month. It's been amazing. I've seen so many. I didn't even know this place existed, Lisbon, Portugal, before a couple of years ago. And now I understand why it's one of the hottest places in Europe, why a lot of people move here. I've met so many Americans and Europeans that have moved here because of the weather, because of the people, because of the economy and the lifestyle. The number one reason why we're doing this, Amber, is because we value freedom. And as coaches and as entrepreneurs, we can create our schedule. We can decide who we work with, and we can decide when we work. But what was happening before for us was we were limited to where we were working. Even though we were working with people on Zoom, we still had to work from home most of the time, sometimes at coffee shops, but that can be kind of distracting. So I would still have my own office at home, and I just felt confined to it, and I got in this comfort zone. So now, one thing that I was greatly desiring, one of the basic human needs, was the unknown and variety. Because when we are in the same environment all the time, things can get kind of dull or we can get way too comfortable.
Yes.
And then inspirations can kind of die down. And so what we did was we decided to challenge ourselves and let's be in the unknown, but still have routines. So this is not a vacation. This is not straight work. This is a workcation.
Lifestyle.
It's a new lifestyle. And that's what we did to become digital nomads.
Love it.
Well, thank you so much for giving us some of your valuable time, giving us your golden nuggets for success and for thriving in your 30s.
Of course. I love this. I love both of you guys, and I'm just grateful to have experienced this with y'all and be in a different country and just also learn, right? I think having community in a space like this, it's so important to talk about what it's really like. Because I feel like sometimes social media, as we should all know by now, a lot of the highlights are on there and the highlight of people's lives, and it could often make people feel lonely in their struggles. And so just being with friends who get it, who know that it's not a linear path and it's going to look all kinds of different ways to get to whatever your top of the mountain looks like in your mind as the person you are right now, it's important. And I've felt very supported while I've been here, and I'm just grateful. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm grateful too, and just feeling amazing right now.
Same.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Namaste.
Namaste.